Hello, and welcome to another Making Your Digital Mark. I am your host, Lisa Apolinsky, America's digital content futurist and the authority on authority power. And I am so excited for our guest today. Mark McIntosh runs a company called Rev Grow, and he has a book that he sent to me that I knew he had to be on my show because we are so much in alignment. Mark, thank you so much for joining today. This is amazing.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Lisa. I'm
Yeah,
excited to chat with you.
fantastic. So, I would like you to go ahead and introduce yourself, specifically talk about who you serve and what problem you solve.
Yeah, great. Again, my name's Mark McIntosh, and we help small business owners primarily grow their business through outbound. So, our primary channels are LinkedIn and email. And a lot of them, they're really good at what they do. They're accustomed to getting all their business word of mouth and referrals, but it's just not enough for them to hit their goal each and every year. So that's what we do for them. We could teach them how to do it, but they won't do it consistently. So they outsource it to me and my team, and we help bring awareness and get them a steady flow of leads and appointments through LinkedIn primarily, little bit of email and phone calls where appropriate.
Ah, that's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. So, I don't know if this book is available on your website to purchase or if they can just email you to get a copy. Anyone who's watching needs to get a copy of this. I preach this. I'm writing about it. I talk about it all the time. So this is a nice, very succinct guide to get you to where you want to go in terms of right fit clients. So I wanted to ask you, what prompted you to write your book? I'm always curious to hear
Yeah.
that from other authors.
Yeah, and thank you for your comments and all that about the book. They can either get on Amazon or they can reach out to me. There is an e-version on our website, and but yeah, so any of that will work great. And I've always wanted to write a book, but I always thought it would be too daunting or too expensive, too much time, or I wasn't qualified to do it. And I came across a company that specializes 90-minute books, and they specialize in these, they call them conversation starters, these small yet impactful books that selfishly, it helps with credibility and thought leadership, but it's also a really good asset or value add that I can give prospects and referral partners who may not yet be ready to engage with us or just as a thank you. So, primary reason was just, you know, a lot of the influencers and the ones doing great work out there. I won't say they all have books, but meeting you at the conference in Chicago and just hearing about your experience, that also helped encourage me. And virtually everyone speaking at that conference, they all had books. And in fact, as I think back, that was probably the about the time that I really needed that push. And I really started to see the benefit of having a book for several reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
So really
And
just overcoming that fear and that all the excuses. And
yes.
so
Yes. And I think one of the key excuses, and I love that you said this, that, you know, it does, to me, it doesn't matter if you want to write a book that's like a university textbook that's like 500 pages, or if you want to write a conversation starter that's smaller or something in between. Um, it's just getting your message out there and getting your information out there. You can't spell authority without author. And there's choose
Love it.
your adventure to become an author. There's no right way to do it. Some people I think, oh, I have to have this like really long novel and it has to be a hardcover. No, it can be anything. It can literally be anything as long as you're sharing your area of genius in a way that helps your audience move the needle forward. That's all we care about. That's all
Yeah.
your audience
Yeah.
cares about too. So, yeah, I think
And
that's
we,
great.
and in the book, yeah, in the book, I pretty much lay out exactly what we do for our clients, why it's important and how it works. And selfishly, our clients, they just won't do it consistently. And so I just lay it all out there and say, hey, this is how you do it. This is exactly what we do for our clients. And I also wanted to be able to share value, provide immediate value, and help all people that I interact with that may not, like I said, have the budget. They may not be ready to hire us. They may not be a fit for whatever reason. And it's just a great way to help people. And so, yeah, for me, it's, if anybody out there is kind of on the fence, I'd be happy to talk with them and share my experience and help them overcome any apprehension or hurdle. And a lot of people are like, well, what do I write about? And fortunately, I had done a lot of presentations and blog posting and things. So I pretty much had the outline with all the
Yeah.
chapters, and it mirrored so many presentations I had done in the past that it was really much easier and less costly and more efficient than I would have ever even imagined.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's key. You're very clear on your area of genius and what value you bring to your clients. So, like you said, the book almost wrote itself because you had done all that communication work up front. And I love that. And, I know that one fear a lot of authors have is they'll write 30,000 words and they're the wrong 30,000 words. It's not the right book. I've seen that
yeah.
time and time again. And understanding your area of genius and what you want to be known for is really the first step in anything that you do, including how
Huge.
you attract high value clients. Because you got to know what it is that you do super, super well to be able to attract the right client who's going to pay you to do that thing super, super well. And
Spot on.
yeah, and I think it's interesting. So I did a post, I think a couple of days ago. I had a conversation with another new community member. Her name is Krista, and just brilliant, just a brilliant. She's a credibility consultant, and she helps ghostwriting.
Mm,
Um, and she said part of her conversations that she has with would-be authors is, well, if I write it down and give it away, no one will pay me. And I think you and I are
mm.
living proof that
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
just not true. My Persuade with a Digital Content Story, I write the formula in there. People
Mm,
still pay me.
mm. Yeah.
Grow your market share in the zombie apocalypse. The greatest personal brand story ever told. I outline what I do. And people go, that's great. Now can you do it for
Mm.
me? And
Right.
the other thing that Krista and I were talking about, she said, well, a lot of them are worried that their competitors are going to steal what they do. And the thing is, and I know, Mark, you've been doing this for a long time, and you have the experience, the stories,
Mm,
the journey, the failures
mm.
that have shaped what you do in a very unique way, and it's very uniquely yours, like a fingerprint.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
can be someone can try to replicate it, but they're not going to be able to ever because it's uniquely you. And I love
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. Yeah.
That's a great point. It's I used to struggle with that scarcity mindset that, oh my gosh, I don't want to give away too much, or I don't want my competitors to get a hold of our secrets. And, after a few years of kind of struggling with that mindset, I don't know. It was now I'm an open book and I encourage everyone. It's what a great way to build up trust than to share your knowledge and your
Yes.
expertise. And so, yeah, I encourage people to get over that if they can, and it's something I think we all struggle with.
Oh, for sure.
And but just focusing on serving and helping your audience, I think, is a sure fit antidote to overcome that. And
Yes.
um,
Yeah. I call it being relentlessly helpful. And I've
yeah,
heard it
nice.
said that show up early, often, to the point where either they hire you or they get a restraining order. Those are the options.
Yeah.
And,
Hopefully they'll hire you, but
hopefully
yeah.
they'll hire you because you want them to succeed. And I think,
Yeah.
I mean, and Mark, I love that because I think that's a huge difference, right? People who lead with authority, aren't there to just get money out of clients. You
Mm,
can tell the difference when someone
yeah.
is just trying to get
Yeah.
a sale versus someone who actually wants to solve the problem for you and see you succeed.
Yeah.
Those are
Yeah.
two very different conversations and two very different ways
Love
of
it.
being that people show up. And you can sense it right from the get-go. Um,
Yeah.
and talking about right from the get-go, I'd love for you to give a little bit of an overview of how you work with clients and what
Yeah.
your value proposition, your differentiator is when people work with you. And I think this
Yeah.
is really key and people really need to hear this.
Yeah. Well, thank you. The first thing we do is we meet, we get a clear understanding of their uniqueness, their value proposition, their compelling offer, their target market, a look back of, hey, what's worked historically for you? How have you gotten your business? And so, really, we have an initial 60-minute kickoff call. We have a short client intake questionnaire. And some clients, they have great clarity around all of those things. So some of them are ready for us to go right into our lead generation strategies. Others, on the other hand, maybe they need a little bit of help to gain clarity around their target market. A lot of them say, well, we can really help everyone. Well, yeah. The riches are in
No.
the niches.
The riches
Um,
are in the niches. You got that right. Yep.
and or they'll say, or they think their offer is super compelling and irresistible, but we dig a little deeper and we find out, well, maybe we can refine or improve it just a little bit that will help move the needle. And same thing with their unique value proposition and their website. Do they have assets and case studies and things like that? So most of our clients, they worked with a coach or a fractional CMO or someone to kind of gain clarity around that before they come to us.
Yep.
And so what we'll do is we always start, uh, almost all of our clients, we're doing LinkedIn for
Yes.
them. So we always look at their profile and say, all right, does this position them in a clear, concise, compelling, and client centric manner as opposed to a resume? And
Yes.
so we do a full blown audit. Their background banner, their picture, their headline, their about section, their social assets, their recommendations, their PDF attachments, their skills, their keywords, all of that. And
Yeah.
almost always we find 7 or 8 ways to elevate their LinkedIn profile and their company page so that when we do reach out to people, that first impression is positive and we want them to look at their profile and say, finally, somebody understands and gets it. They
Yes.
understand our pain. They understand, and it's like they're speaking to me.
Yeah.
And so that's really step one
And
is
and
updating their profile.
right. And I just want to interject. So that's so you and I overlap on that because we both get it. We both understand that your LinkedIn profile is not a throwaway. And it's actually something that
Yes.
you should be touching really like every quarter. Are you getting the recommendation? Is there something that's shifted in what you do
Mm,
where you can change the headline or change the banner or, update something about a video or, like you said, like an
mm-hmm.
attachment? It's something that should be a living, breathing extension of you,
Yes.
which is huge.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. And I love
It's not set in stone to your
No,
point.
it's not set
It's
in stone. You don't set it and
yeah.
forget it.
Yep.
And you're right. A lot of people look at it as just an online CV. And I hate to say this, but it's true. Most people don't make it down to your work experience.
Mm,
They look at the first sections to see whether or not they want to continue. And your work
yep.
experience, you know, because it's static, they want to look at the dynamic content. And so does AI.
Mm,
AI has to come
spot
into this
on.
conversation. I
Yeah.
just updated my LinkedIn because AI dubbed me, and I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. A digital dominance strategist. So I put that
Like
in my
it.
headline,
Yeah.
AI dubbed the digital dominance strategist, because I'm like, wow, if that's how AI is seeing me, maybe I should share that with my community. But you have to be, and I still felt like it was compelling yet clear. Everyone understands digital dominance. You want to dominate the digital space, totally.
Mhm.
And clarity over cleverness wins every single time. So, yes.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
also want to say, I love the fact that you look at their history, and then, something that I do as pre-homework when I work with my clients is I give them, I call it a personal DNA worksheet. And in
Mm.
it, they look at things that they have done, where they've gotten to this point. And then I ask them to, if I could wave a magic wand, bippity boppity booyah, and put you in a future state, you're a fly on the wall listening to people have a conversation about you. What do you want them to say? Right? And then
Wow.
you
I
look at
like
their
that.
LinkedIn profile, you look at their digital assets, and it doesn't reflect that. And it has to.
Wow.
And I love that's part of what you look at. That's fantastic. Love it. Like I said, but
Like the
before
look
we
back on
started, we're
that
so
point.
aligned.
Yeah, the look back, I say, well, let's look at your 10 favorite clients.
Yeah.
That will help us gain clarity as far as targeting your ideal customer profile,
Yes.
and how did they come about? Well, if 90% of them came from these small scale workshops that you do, well, let's figure out a way to add fuel to that. And, or maybe 4 out of 10 came from referrals from a fractional CFO. Well,
Right.
maybe our LinkedIn outreach should include going after fractional CFOs as
Right.
referral partners. So
Right.
that look back exercise is usually pretty impactful.
Yeah.
And
When you do the look back exercise, do you also look at like mindset, like the and I know
yeah,
that's really hard to capture when you're doing strategic targeting, which I know you're going to go into
yeah,
using Sales
yeah,
Navigator. But I
yeah.
mean, is there I know you're looking at industry, you're probably looking at revenue size, you're probably looking at, you know, where they are in their own journey.
Yep.
But one thing that I've learned, and again, it's so hard to quantify, right? When you think
Hmm.
about that right fit client that just gets you so excited to get up in the morning and talk to them, what about the engagement really sets you on fire? Is it that, they're always on time? Is it that, they show up ready to work and they don't have distractions?
Yep.
And if you can't pin that, I always say, look at your South Star. And I have a couple of South Stars that go right into my head who are, disrespect my time,
Uh,
who show up for a 30-minute session and only give me 5 minutes because they double booked. I've had that happen to me. And I'm like, what? Who take a, who, get interrupted and allow the interruption to happen and get distracted during our call.
yeah.
Um, things like that, just, interruptions happen and that's not a bad thing. But when it's consistent, when they consistently push back from the engagement with you,
Yeah.
that's so frustrating, right? They're they don't understand the value you bring. I mean, things like that. Even
Yeah.
when you've demonstrated it, they still resist.
Yeah. That's
Those are
huge.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I
That's
think
huge. We call it how do you attract your right fit clients and how do
yes,
you repel those that aren't right fit clients?
yes,
And to
yes,
include some of that in your presence on LinkedIn,
yes,
that's just another filter. But you're exactly right. Our analysis includes those characteristics, those attributes, those
nice.
mindset things that may or may not be searchable, like on LinkedIn, for example, but they're so critical. And an example would be our ideal clients. They have the mindset that, hey, I can easily grow. I just need more at bats.
Yes,
You get me in front of people, I'll close them. Or,
right.
so they have that growth mindset. And there are some things you can look at on somebody's LinkedIn profile that are indicators of that. Maybe they follow certain influencers, or maybe they've been part of organizations like YPO or EO or Vistage or things like that. So you can kind of ascertain their mindset based on some of those attributes. But yeah, I think those characteristics, those intangibles, are often more critical in defining your right fit clients and
Yes.
repelling the wrong fit than location or size or things like that. It's all about
Yeah.
their mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Awesome. So you've you've done your due diligence, you've updated their LinkedIn profile, they're ready to go. What's the next step in your process?
Yeah, so next step would be strategic targeting. And most of our clients, we're doing a combination of targeting their ideal customer profile, but also their ideal referral partner.
Yes.
And going back to that look back exercise, it's really helpful in gaining clarity and narrowing in on the ideal referral partner and the ideal or the right fit client. And based on that, we then go into Sales Navigator and create hyper targeted, um, very sometimes they're complex where you have Boolean searches like, yes, and these words, but not these words. And oh, by the way, they went to this school and they're this size, or they've posted on LinkedIn the last 30 days. So we can really get strategic and dial in pretty well using the advanced search filters within Sales Navigator,
Yep.
both for prospects and referral partners. But we
Right.
can also take some of our clients, they target Salesforce users, for example, and they've already acquired a list of Salesforce users. We can take those lists and cleanse the data. We can work that into our process, whether we're doing LinkedIn or email or phone calls. We can enrich that data and validate it and make sure it's accurate. So that's how we go about targeting.
Nice.
LinkedIn, people, kind of got disappointed when LinkedIn reduced the number of connections you could send out. And now they'll allow about 125 a week new
Right.
connections. I actually like it because those limitations force us to really be strategic on who we're targeting. So before, when we could send out 500 messages or connection requests, you were like, well, what's the point? I'll just, scattershot it and hope that I hit some people. But being dialed in that targeting, it just absolutely essential. And this, everybody, a lot of people know this, is the more narrow we can be on our ideal customer or our ideal, the more efficient we can be with our marketing efforts and our marketing dollars. So we don't have to be the solution for everyone, but we're the solution for a very limited or narrowed in type of individual with certain, or company with certain characteristics.
Yeah.
So makes
And
it more efficient.
absolutely. And I one thought that popped into my head when you were saying that you're being more selective in who you network with, it's not only your connection with them, but a connection to their community, right?
Mm,
So it's this
yeah,
2 or 3 layer of complexity in that allows you to really then get a huge bang for your buck. Um, I don't know about
spot
you,
on.
but
Yeah,
one of the things that I look at when I get connection requests is I look at the number of mutual connections we have. If we have 50 or more mutual connections, I click accept and then I look at their profile, which I know is horrible,
yeah.
but I'm like, oh,
No,
you must be part of my community because we know a lot of the same people. And having these additional, having these strategic connections allows you to really be part of someone else's community because you have something in common. Commonality
yes,
is key to develop
yes,
trust.
yes. Spot on,
Yeah.
spot on. And like your profile is iterative, so are your searches. So
Yes.
we'll do it by campaign a lot of times, and maybe for a quarter or two, they want to start with a certain avatar. Maybe they have 3 or 4 avatars, and sometimes we'll focus in on one or two, not to dilute the effort or the impact. But to your point earlier, as you connect with others, then that second degree pool just becomes wider. And
Yes.
um, and then LinkedIn does allow you to filter in, if there's like, well, there's thousands, I need to get down to a workable list. Well, maybe you want to focus in on those who have posted in the last 30 days. Or some of our clients, they're looking for people that are new to their CEO position for
Right.
whatever reason. Or so there's a lot of ways we can really dial in and ensure that we're being good stewards of that allotted amount, which I love it.
Yeah.
It's a quality over quantity mindset,
Yes.
and it's all about relationships, and it's fishing in the right pond.
Right.
Um,
Yes.
is so important. So targeting is absolutely essential step
Yeah.
in what we do for our
Yep.
clients.
Yep.
And
And I'm just so excited. I'm just so happy you're saying that. I do it on a very smaller scale. But what you're doing is you're doing it, automated and to scale, which is fantastic. So, I live in the world of multiple right answers. So you could start one way and go to the other, or vice versa. As long as
yeah,
you're following the same foundational tenets,
yeah,
you're gonna see success,
yeah,
which is fabulous. I love it.
yeah. Yeah, and we do, to your point, with LinkedIn, we don't do a lot with automation because it's not, the platform doesn't like it. And we
Right.
really want to be careful not to send tone deaf messages, or, just because a profile shows up in a search doesn't mean we want to connect with them. But on the email side, it's virtually all automated.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different ball game. But yeah, LinkedIn, it's targeting, and then what we do is we create messaging that
Right.
will resonate with your audience, and different messaging will resonate with different avatars. But the approach for messaging is do not connect and pitch, do not pitch slap. How can I stand out from all my competition?
Yeah,
Right.
pitch
And it's
slap. I
like,
love that.
don't
I love that
don't
term.
don't do
And
that.
everybody
Don't do that.
understands what that means. I don't have to explain it. If you go, it's a pitch slap, you're like, ah, yeah. You get
Exactly.
the
So
connection, and then immediately you get
uh
this
so annoying.
dissertation
Right.
of their services, and let's have a conversation. No.
So how about engage with them? Maybe ask a question. Maybe, hey, thanks for connecting. I'm looking forward to staying in touch. See if you can plant seeds. We call them deposits into the relationship.
Yep.
And how can you add value and build trust so that when we do get around to asking if they'd be open to having a virtual coffee, they're more likely to say yes.
Right.
And so we create the messaging. We spread it out like 5, 7 days in between each message. But, ultimately, there's a call to action. And for most of our clients, it's all about getting the conversation, because otherwise, what's the point?
Right.
And then one thing I wanted to mention as we're talking about messaging, so many of our clients have all the gold they would ever need in their existing network. So during the first month, and then we do it quarterly, we do what we call a re-engagement exercise. So how do I segment my existing network, people I connected with at a conference, maybe at a conversation, maybe I never even talked to them. Well, those are so much easier to mine that gold and get conversations going with those people. And that's probably the most common. There's two commonalities across our clients. One is they don't do what we do consistently.
Hmm.
And number two, they connect and forget. We talked about connect and pitch. Connect and forget is like sin number two. I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. So just by we export our clients' existing network, and then we segment it based on title and date connected and all sorts of things. And then we say, all right, out of these 3,000 connections, there's 400 that are spot on with my ideal customer profile. Let's start there. Or, well, shoot, there's 200 of referral partner potential. Well, let's start there. And so we create a message. Our clients review and approve it. We want to make sure to capture their authenticity, their tone and tenor, but still be able to do it in a scalable manner. But it's not a one size fits all cookie cutter template approach. It's much more authentic and tailored to their audience and to their voice, their authentic voice.
Yep. I
So that
I
messaging
started,
is important.
yeah, and I started laughing because either it's something that they send to everybody and you can tell because it's super generic, or it's and nothing against AI, but you can tell when you have a very watered down, plain Jane vanilla message that has no real connection to it. And you can feel it, and you can feel when it's a little bit AI generated, when it's a little too the human factor has been removed, and that's you can smell it a mile away for sure.
One one strategy that we use that really helps with that trust building, I call it permission based. So you might say, "Hey, I just did this podcast with Mark, or I just wrote this book, or I just get." Instead of just shoving it down their throat, maybe ask permission. Say, "Is this relevant, or would you like me to send you a copy?" You want to talk about building trust with somebody, just little things like that, asking
Oh,
permission
yeah,
before you just blast them a piece of content.
yeah,
So, and then the other big thing is that quarterly or that year-round nurturing. Some of my best clients, they've been completely radio silent until like touch point number 15 or 18. And then boom, you hit them at the right time. And it's like a one or two call close. So
right, right.
I always encourage people, let's do it for the long haul. This is not, you may not become relevant in their eyes. A friend of mine says it's a lonely you're all alone on that extra mile. So when all your competition is given up, why not continue to nurture year round? And that's another one of those things that people they may have a newsletter that goes out, kind of a one size fits all blast, but that personalized nurturing throughout the year we found to be so effective for our
Yeah,
clients.
yeah. And it's funny. So I thought about, I connected with someone who I wasn't sure if I would ever use his services, but he seemed like an interesting individual. And, he let me know what it is that he did. And I was in the middle of doing like three other client jobs and traveling and, all this other stuff. And so I didn't respond right away. And I started getting, instead of him, like you said, like touch point throughout, it was message after message after message after message after message. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to
Hmm.
me, talk to me. And then the last one was, well, I guess you don't want to talk to me. I'll stop bothering you. But
Yeah.
wow, okay.
Yeah,
Like
you,
he
you
and
you
and
didn't invite that barrage, did you? But you
I
got it.
didn't invite the
That's yeah.
barrage, and I also didn't invite the disengagement. That was the weird thing. It was like he didn't give me permission to say I don't want to talk to you. He just said, "Well, since you're not buying from me, you're not worth my time." That's what I heard. Please
Yeah,
don't do that to
that's
people. Please don't do
yeah,
that to people. It's rude. It's totally rude. So the only reason, and
so
that,
common. So
yeah.
common.
And that means the only reason why you connected with me is you were hoping to sell to me and nothing else. It was all
Exactly.
about what you wanted and nothing about the relationship. And I'm like, I understand that, you want to get a sale. I get it. Businesses right now, we're pivoting like our life depends on it because it kind of does. And we're trying to figure this out. And I totally get it. But there's still a longer game to play. There's still relationships that, if nurtured, can become amazing relationships, amazing clients, and amazing advocates because you took the time to invest. So I agree with you. It has to be a year long constant touch point. And that can be whether it's, you're doing one at a time or three at a time, whether you're, pulling out your database and doing it in automation, whether
Yeah.
you're making, following certain people and
Yeah.
liking their posts and commenting on it that you haven't done in a while and showing your
Yep.
community some love. There's
Yeah.
so many different ways that you can help people to feel special and to feel that you actually care about them and their success.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
I
No,
love
that's
that.
spot on. There, we have a resource that shares like 40 some ways to add value and stay top of mind without the dreaded checking in or touching base, which are more or less, hey, you ready to hire me yet? But yeah, I think if you focus on them and their needs and what matters to them, and because they will smell desperation or commission breath through LinkedIn or wherever. And it just it's a bad idea.
Yeah, it's an absolute bad idea. Um, I could talk to you all day.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have to think about wrapping up. I wanted to ask you two
Yeah.
things. First of all, if you could leave the audience with one thing to really think about, what would it be?
Consistency and having a disciplined approach or system, even if it's 20 minutes a week or 15 minutes a day or whatever, the consistency and being disciplined with LinkedIn is really where the value, you'll start to see the value.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it may be committing to posting. We didn't even get into content. Posting twice a week, or um, identifying your top 25 and going out and engaging on their content, or
Yes,
maybe it's reaching out to 10 new connections a week, or re-engage with 5 or 10 people that you've been connected with but you never actually met per week. So even a little bit can move the needle, but
yeah,
it's that consistency and the random acts of social, or the hey, I'm go heavy for a week and then quit because I'm busy
right.
engaging or working with my clients. That we found that doesn't work as well as,
No,
consistent, disciplined approach.
yeah.
So that
And
that's probably the big one.
yeah, and I couldn't agree more. And it's funny. So with my clients, I tell them that if they can spend just 10 minutes a day, and they can choose, right? They can reach out to two or three influencers and engage with their posts because even people who have 30, 50, 100, 200, 500,000 followers, they worry about is the next post, no one's going to like it or comment on it because
Yeah.
they're human. So
Yeah.
showing up and commenting on it and liking it, and I don't mean commenting on it of insightful. I mean actually adding
Yeah.
something of value in your authority, in your area of genius, and and really adding to the conversation. Insightful comment is not adding to the conversation. Actually having a conversation as if they're in front of you at a cocktail party. And you're
Yep.
going, yeah, and but, and it doesn't have to be long. So I totally agree with you. And I tell them, if you drink coffee or tea in the morning, make it, link it to a habit you already do.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you're instead of being on your phone playing a video game or Angry Birds or something, take 10 minutes and go into LinkedIn, look at a few things, and you can have a list for the week. Okay, Monday, I'm going to look at if I can comment with three influencers, and then I'm going to post one post. Um, and I do it when I'm inspired. If I have an inspiration, if I have a conversation with someone, and I'm so obsessed with doing this now, and it's a way of highlighting the person I had a conversation with. It's
Yes.
To me, it's
Yes.
the best use of my time ever in the history of the universe.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have a conversation with them. I think I did this with you, Mark. You say something, and I'm like, I got to write that down. And if I write it down, I need to quote it to my community. So I
Yeah.
tag you in my post and I quote what you said because I want my community to know you the way I just did.
Yeah.
And there's so much value in that. And it's not about me, it's about
Well, there's
you,
there's
about
nuggets.
others. Yeah.
There's nugget. Yeah, right on. Right.
Yeah.
There's nuggets we get during our everyday conversations. Those are such a good source for content ideas.
Oh, they're
And then
great.
to
It's,
to to do those social currency of tagging that person and
yeah.
helping to promote them, that
Yeah.
that goes a long way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's something I learned in my journalism days. Like you get quotes from people and you share them. And, again, it's one sentence. And then you can, say why that one sentence was compelling enough for you to want to share it. Like what came
no
out of
doubt.
that? What
Yeah.
what came to mind when that comment was made? I
Yeah.
just love doing that now. And I have these, like you said, these virtual coffee chats, and I learn about the person, I learn about their area of genius. They share just a gold vein of wisdom. And now that's my practice. Write it down, and that day or the next day, I post it
Yeah.
because it's fresh in my mind. I'm excited about having that conversation with them. And I also want to show them, you spent 30 minutes with me. That's 30 minutes you're never going to get back. I want to make sure that I provide something of value to you and I
Yeah.
help my community to discover who you are and, what your area of genius is. So I love that. I absolutely
You
love
could
that.
write the book on it. Oh, wait, you did write the book on it.
And I'm writing another book on it. Yes, got to write
Yeah,
a
the
lot of
other
books on
thing
it.
I just thought of is some people like to gamify it a little bit. And, LinkedIn has social selling index. And if you have a team or a peer group, maybe you can run little contests to hold each other accountable and say, all right, how many impressions or comments or likes or what's your social selling index? Or, hey, let's make 5 introductions to each other this week. Warm introductions are gold. That's a great approach. Nobody
Yes.
does it intentionally because they think, oh, wait, I got to wait until they tell. An introduction is different than a referral. And
Right.
introduction is a little bit more of a proactive approach that says, hey, you're both great people. You serve similar clients. I thought it'd be good to make the introduction.
Yeah.
And there's that's one thing we do for our clients is that there's warm introductions each and every week. And
Yeah.
that's another area that so many people don't do because they wait until it has to be an endorsement or a referral or somebody says, well, no, if I know somebody that you would like to meet, I'm happy to make the introduction.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely. And I always say, if you're in my network and you see someone in my network that you're like, hey, I'd like to meet them, I am happy to make the introduction. And I ask you, what is it about that person that compelled you to want to make the introduction so that when
oh,
I make the
nice.
introduction, I can kind of sell it on your behalf and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then not just here's so and so, have fun
Right,
talking.
right.
Like I actually
Yeah,
want to provide value and make it, set them up in a way, right? Like,
yeah. Well, it has to seem just like when somebody sends you a blind connection request, it has to make sense from the
yeah,
recipient's perspective.
yeah,
And it can't be
yes.
about you or them. So there's ways to do it, but
Yeah, there's absolute ways to do it. Yeah.
yeah.
So, Mark, if anyone listening wants to have a conversation with you, learn about your services, add you to their community, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is one way. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, or schedule a call. I have a website link to my calendar. It's schedule a call with Mark, MARK.com, or they can send me an email at mark at revgrow, GROW.com.
Awesome. And ask for this, get this,
Yep.
read it a
Yep.
lot, put it
So,
next to your desk, refer to it often.
well, thanks. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad that you were on the call today. I really do appreciate it. And if there's one thing I can leave our audience with, it's this. When you lead by authority, you show up for your community and you serve them first. It's always them first, whether it's personal branding, whether it's authority, it's how they benefit from the interaction, not you. And if you focus on that, your authority power will grow exponentially because you are leading, and leaders always lead. I'm Lisa Apolinski. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation, and we'll see you the next time. Bye bye.